الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ونور قلوبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نوعنا التعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكر ونفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم الدعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقرب ثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون الفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون الفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. We're going to continue with our lesson, inshallah. So apologize for the last minute change in timing. I guess from now on, right, if we realize that there's no rawaha, we can assume we can push up to 5 o'clock if there's no rawaha. 5 o'clock tarim, 10 o'clock Singapore. Okay, inshallah, if there's no rawaha, you can just push it up to 5 o'clock. Today there's no rawaha because the men have gone to Husaisa Husaysa is a place. It's not really a town. It's a place. It's a place that is between Tarim and Seun, two towns here, is where Imam Muhajir is buried. Now, Imam Muhajir Allah, Ahmad bin Isa, he is the first of the Ahlul Bayt to come to Hadramaut. And it's from him that the entire Ahlul Bayt in Hadramaut, they come from. Imam Muhajir ilallah Ahmad bin Isa. So it is a commemoration of the entrance of Imam Muhajir into Hadramaut, right? The annual commemoration. That this was the day whereby he entered into Hadramaut. So they actually kind of like celebrate. They celebrate every year the day that Imam Muhajir entered into Hadramaut, and they go to Husaysa, and they actually like have like majalis. They have majalis. They have like Imam Maulid, and they have like qira'ah and so on. At Husaysa, they actually have an entire thing going on at Husaysa. So I forgot. Actually, yesterday I saw the message going out that the men will be going to Husaysa after Asar tomorrow for their annual commemoration of the entrance of Imam Muhajir into Hadramaut. Right. And then they were saying that there is no night classes, there's no, Rauha and everything. But it didn't occur to me to tell anybody that it was happening right here in Tarim, mashallah. Right. So mashallah. So that's why there is no Rauha today. But inshallah, you can assume that if anytime there's no Rauha, you can just assume that we can bring the timing up to 10 p.m. so it finishes earlier. Tamam. Okay, I want to just finish off my notes. Okay, I didn't finish off my notes about the hadith, okay, the Matla' Nabawi. So I'm going to go back to the Matla' Nabawi. I know I've been there for a long time, but I just want to just make sure I cover everything. Okay, in the Matla' Nabawi. Right, yesterday we spoke about a lot of things, and I know there are questions. I'm not so sure when I'm going to address all the questions. Maybe if I have time today, since we have a bit more time today, we can go and address the questions. I just don't want to hold it for so long because I know it's 10 o'clock in Singapore. Tamam. Um, okay, so let me just read through my notes from where I don't know where I stopped in my reading of my notes. But I'm just going to read from the beginning of the Matla' Nabawi, right? So coming into the Matla' Nabawi, right? The Matla' meaning the starting point, the prophetic starting point. We have taken the Matla' Qur'ani, the Quranic starting point, and now we're going into the prophetic starting point, right? And so it points to the signs of the hour, right? The signs of the hour, which is basically severe fitna, right? Severe bala. It's called bala'un shadidun, right? A severe bala. Right? And what is a bala? What a true bala? What a true you will say calamities. Bala will be calamity, calamity, trial, tribulation. What's a true tribulation is something that afflicts someone's religion. So we're not talking about diseases. We're not talking about death, death toll. We're not talking about dunyawi stuff that happens to people. Like these are just called al-ikhtibar, tests. Like bala, in meaning of it, right? A true bala, right, is when a person's religion is at stake, right? Someone's iman is at stake. That's a true bala, right? That's a true tribulation on a person when the iman is at stake. So when looking at this, we're not looking, at that, will there be worldwide hunger? Will there be worldwide illnesses? Is it COVID they're talking about? Bala'un shadid. Right? Is it COVID? Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Are they talking about all this stuff? No, 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 no. That is not what they're talking about. And just nice, to mention this together, what Imam Muhajir did. Imam Muhajir, Ahmad bin Isa, if you don't go into his story, right, you will read in his story that he actually left Iraq because he was fleeing from fitan. They will say he's fleeing from fitna that is going on in Iraq. Right. And if you actually go into the story of Imam Muhajir, do you know what he was fleeing from? He was fleeing from richness. Right. They were growing, the family of Rasul was becoming so rich in Iraq. That was his fitna. That was what he saw as a bala. That is a bala. That is a fitna. They were trying to convince him to enter the government. They were trying to make him a qadi, a judge. They were giving him wealth after wealth after wealth. They were getting so rich in Iraq. He fled. He ran away from that. When you read the story, you might think, oh, was there a war going on? Like, was there some form of like tyrants going on, some tyrant government, in Iraq? Like, was there like, you think that you would think that when they say Imam Muhajir fled Iraq, He ran away from Iraq because there was a fitna. He ran away from great fitna, and he wanted to save the family of Rasulullah that he knows that he carries in his loins. This and all of this all falls under fiqh tahawulat, because fiqh tahawulat is a lot of study of the history, of people or personalities in history who have understood fiqh tahawulat. And Imam Muhajir is one of the foremost people who understood fiqh tahawulat. So just nice that today is his commemoration of him entering to Hadramaut. Then we should mention some things about him. Imam Muhajir Ahmad bin Isa. And mashallah, my if you all know my Monday class, I go with Hawa Salma. It's really through her that I begin to really understand the lineage, right? Because she will go through every single one of them from Sayyidina Ali and Sayyidina Fatima az-Zahra, then she will go into Sayyidina Hussein, and then Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin, right? And then Muhammad al-Baqir, and so on and so forth. From there, all the way she went through every single one of them, and then she has reached the father of Imam Muhajir Ahmad bin Isa al-Rumi. He's called Isa al-Rumi, right? Because he used to have like blue eyes. She had blue eyes. So much interesting, right? That he is one of the he's called al-Rumi because he looks very any Caucasian, right, in his looks. But he was of the family. He is a descendant of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the father of Imam Muhajir, right? So when you read the story of Imam Muhajir, you need to understand the word bala. Like bala'un shadid. Right? What is bala? What is so shadid about dunya? Dunya is not shadid. Whatever that can happen to you in this dunya is not shadid. It's not called shadid. Because you know why? It's for a while. That is why whatever trials you go through in this dunya is not really severe if it's just dunya. And if you lose all your money, if you lose even all your family, if you lose all your limbs, if you lose all your senses, right? It's not truly a bala until you lose your iman, until you lose your deen. Right? Then you say bala'un shadid. It's serious bala. It's a serious calamity. Right? So it was with Imam Muhajir first I come into the hadith. Right? So Imam Muhajir, what was going on in Iraq was that he was getting so rich, he was getting so popular. Right? Popularity came into his into his life. Richness came in. Right? They had land after land after land, in Iraq. Right? The government was going after him. In that, the government was trying to get him to get into the government. Right? It's not that they were going after him, like trying to persecute him or trying to lock him up. No, not that kind of bala. Right? The bala was they trying to get him into the government. He ran away. Like he ran away. He had a brother who got into the government, and this brother was one of the qadi, right, in Iraq, and he reprimanded his brother so many times about getting involved. Mashallah, this is a man who understood fiqh tahawulat, and it's really that Habib Abu Bakr Adani said that it's not a new knowledge. It's not. There have been personalities, in the history of Islam who have demonstrated their understanding of this knowledge, and these personalities or these people, they exist till our time. And there's one question I saw on the Padlet by someone. It's a very good question, mashallah. Let me just address it. And I think I wrote something about it, right, from the question. Right, someone asked the question whereby, let me see, going back up. Someone asked a question about and I'm picking my questions because a lot of the questions is basically symptoms, so I'm not going to address them. But questions that are on the material, I will address them. The means what I'm presenting to you all. Okay, I will address them. Right. So there was a question here. If you look at the Padlet, right, there was a question whereby someone said, okay, here. I should say here that so under warning, under the subheading of under the heading of warning. So he says here that Ustazah, it seems like the distortions have seeped deep into our time. Have the prophetic warnings only been decoded now, or have they always been around or from the onset of these distortions but ignored? How do we raise awareness on this matter and keep the alarm on for ourselves and those around us? Very good question, mashallah. Very good question. And the answer is yes, it has been known. And that all of this, distortions, all of this fitna, all of this, you will say what destroys our deen, our religion, all the attacks on the first tree, the tawabit, Iman, Islam, and Ihsan, the attacks have been around since Rasul's time. They've been around, they've been attacking, because the very coming of Rasul is a major sign of a day of judgment. And really the fitna was coming. From a point he passed away, the murtadun, right? Those who murtad, right? They all began to rise up, right? There was this murtad going on. There was sweeping Arabia. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he understood. He put a stop to it. Right? He was firm against this fitna of those who are doing, of those who were apostating, who are leaving the religion. Right? So throughout history, there have been, you will say, there are people, in the history of Islam who have understood, right? And they do teach it in their teachings, right? But it's just that it was never a structured study. Okay, it was never a structured study. Like how you say fiqh, aqidah, tasawwuf, right? All of these things were there from Rasulullah. Even this knowledge of fiqh tahawulat was there since the time of Rasulullah. Right? But it's just that, you can apply fiqh once the imams have structured fiqh. And they structure it into tahara, salah, zakat, so, and they go into the mubtilat, they go into the sunan, they go into the shuruts, right, the conditions, the arkan, like they structure it for us. Otherwise, how are you going to learn salat? How are you going to learn tahara? You see? So this knowledge has been there for a very long time. You can see Sayyidina Abu Bakr applying it, Sayyidina Uthman applied it, Sayyidina Umar applied it, the great imams, all of them applied it, right? But it was just never structured for the masses to apply. For the general public, for the awam to apply it, it was never structured in this way. So this is the first time, Habib Abu Bakr is the first person to actually structure it for the application of the masses. And so there was a question somebody asked, should I just focus on my fardu ain, and not learn this knowledge? Should I just focus on my Islam, Iman, Ihsan, and not learn this knowledge? This knowledge is part of Islam, Iman, Ihsan. Is part of it. Right? It's like someone saying, should I learn Iman and not learn Islam? Like, should I learn about Aqidah and not learn Sharia? And you say, you have to learn all. You have to learn Aqidah. You must learn Sharia. You must learn Tazkiyah. Right? Because if you don't learn Aqidah, you have nothing, basically. There's no Iman. There's nothing. You don't learn Sharia, your amalan is what Allah will question you on the day of judgment. That's your amalan, your deeds, right? You don't learn Sharia, then haba'an mansura. It's just dust. You're not gonna have anything to show on the day of judgment. If you don't learn tazkiyah, right, then your Sharia and your aqidah can be destroyed by diseases of the heart. Right? So you must all treat together, right? At the same time, you must learn what's going to destroy this tree. And that is fiqh tahawulat. Get it? It's all together. It's not like fiqh tahawulat is separate from the tree. No, it is within the tree. Is together with the tree. They're learned together, and that is the best way to learn them. Okay, right. So to answer her question, and I think I wrote the answer there in the Padlet, right? That so the prophetic warnings have been understood throughout history. Right, the prophetic warnings have been understood throughout history. By the great imams. By the great imams throughout history till our time. Right? There are people of basira, of inner sight, people of purity, right? People who have understood till our time. And you say this is very strongly proven in the Habaib. I'm of course I'm from the Habaib, tradition. So for me, I'll just quote them all the time. Right? But I'm sure the rest of the world, there are the mashayikh, there are the, you have in Syria, in Sham, you have in Morocco, you have all over the world, right? People who hold on strongly, and they are the ones who can see the shar or the evil of the zaman, and they never actually get involved with any of these things. Right? So it has been decoded for a very long time by the righteous. It's just as the masses, right? The masses, the general public, right? They are the ones who are ignorant, right, of this, right? So it's always been around, right? But I won't say the distortions have been ignored. The distortions, basically, people are ignorant. People are ignorant, right? So that is what we're trying to do now: raise awareness. I'm trying to raise awareness, and for you to always keep your alarm on is for you to continuously study, continuously sit with the people who are able to look at the zaman, and in fact, you know what? The more you purify yourself from the evil of the zaman, from the filth of the zaman, the more you're able to detect for yourself what is evil. You can actually begin to detect for yourself where the evil lies, right? The more you purify, as you mentioned, if you sit, with rubbish all the time, you can't sense rubbish anymore. right? But once you begin pulling yourself out of rubbish and go into a pure, into a pure environment, when there's a stench, you will smell it. But if you live with stench, you cannot smell stench, right? That is basically the qaida, right? That's basically the you say the principle of this, tamam, right? So that's what I mentioned there, right? That it has always been known. I just want to mention a bit about Imam Muhajir, right? Just for us to reflect and to learn. This is all part of it. We look at people. Oh, sorry, just saw the share screen padlet. Never mind. Already come back. Tamam. Okay, never mind. So we look at the people of the past and we see how they responded. They see how they responded, right, to the fitna, right, of their time. So when Rasulullah said bala'un shadid, what does he mean? He means against the iman, Islam, ihsan of people. Right. And so in this hadith, what is he pointing to? He's pointing to fiqh tahawulat, right? In this hadith, in his solution for this. So Imam Muhajir, right? He fled. He fled Basra or he fled Iraq. Why? Because wealth was coming into the hands of the Ahlul Bayt. Right? Wealth, position, governance, right? Was coming into the hands of the Ahlul Bayt. He feared for the family of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that dunya comes into their hands, right? He feared that dunya, because dunya is the most evil of fitan, dunya itself. And so it comes to hadith in it, whereby Rasulullah said, حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. We know all this stuff. We know all these things. And towards the end of times, this is where all this hadith will come into play. حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. Right? Full stop. Full stop. Don't love dunya. You gotta get out of dunya. You gotta get rid of dunya. Like bring it out of your heart. Subhanallah. So anyway, the story about Muhajir, just to mention a bit of it, and I come back to my notes. Imam Muhajir, he first fled from Iraq. He left his wealth behind, He left, he left his land. It was said Imam Muhajir had so much wealth that he he filled up, I think it was 20 camels worth of gold. That was the amount of wealth that he had. If I'm not wrong, I think it was 20 camels. An amount of camels that they will say that he loaded up these camels full of, these camels were carrying full loads of gold. That was how rich they were, so incredibly rich, right? And he left with all that wealth because he knew if he left it behind, it would destroy the people. So he traveled the land, right, to actually do khair, right, buy land and set up farms, set up schools, set up masajid. Right? They will use the gold for goodness, and he will spread the gold through the land until finally he went to Makkah, Medina first, right? And he was there for a while, and he decided there was not where he wants to plant, because he's looking for a place to plant the dhurriyat of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he was looking for a place that was devoid of dunya. MashaAllah. That's why he found Hadramaut. Hadramaut has nothing, MashaAllah. No dunya here. It's just akhirah, MashaAllah. Imam Khan, the Hadramaut is like, if you're looking for dunya, don't come here. There's no dunya here, MashaAllah. It's just desert. It's really desert here, MashaAllah. So he traveled Makkah, Medina. It was also filled with dunya. Makkah and Medina was filled with dunya as well. Like he left it, and he traveled and eventually came to Hadramaut. Like he came to a place in Hadramaut, in the valley of Hadramaut, and he saw that it was just desert. The land was even not very fertile. There was some fertile land here and there in Hadramaut, yes. But the zuhud is like, to the extreme of zuhud. There's nothing there, mashallah. And he settled. He said, this is the best, the most perfect place for the Zuriyah of Rasulullah. The perfect place. No dunya here. So, and he settled there in Hadramaut, mashallah. And the story goes on to, how the family of Rasulullah, right, moved from place to place until eventually they settled in Tarim, right? A majority of them are in Tarim, right? So you see what he saw as bala, dunya. It was dunya, it was wealth, it was position, it was governance, right? He saw it as bala, right? And he ran away, right, from that, right? So when you say that, when you read the story of Muhajir, don't think wrongfully when they say he ran away from the fitna in Iraq, that he was running away from war, or he was running away from disease, or he was running away from oppression. No. He was running away from money, right? From position. He was running away from all those things. So the bala'un shadid in the end of times, what it speaks about is the degradation, right, or destruction of iman, Iman, Islam, and Ihsan, all three. That is what we call the bala. That is the bala. Tamam. Okay, understand Right. So the point, so in this hadith, Mr. Tumainus, Mr. Tumainus, right? So the Maqta' Nabawi, right? So in the beginning, in the what you said, in the starting points, right, of the from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, what we see, right, of the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, is that he's pointing us, right, to the signs when he said sayusib ummati fi akhir zaman bala'un shadid. So what he's talking about? He's talking about the end of times whereby the religion will be destroyed. And that is the words of the final Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So bala fi lugha, the word bala in the language, in the lugha, is ikhtibar, right? Ikhtibar, right? So it is testing. Bala'un shadid. And basically the sharah here spent a lot of time on the word bala'un shadid, because for you to understand what is this great tribulation, because how are we going to protect ourselves from this great tribulation if we don't know what it is, right? And now that I highlighted to you what Imam Muhajir saw. Imam Muhajir saw dunya and position, governance as the bala. He saw that is the bala. You see that? Do you all get it? Right? That you might read this hadith and people might think, oh, is it war? Oh, is it disease? Oh, is it like what's going on? The non-Muslims are killing off Muslims in some parts of the world, like in Palestine, Syria, and other parts of the world. Is it that? Right? Like in a sense, and then if you identify wrongly what is this bala, you're fleeing from the wrong thing. And it could be you're in the heart of the bala and you don't even think that you are. So, like, for example, right now, right, even though we know what's going on in Palestine, what's going on in Syria, what's going on in Rohingya, for our Muslims, in many parts of the Muslim world, terrible things are going on, yes. But our teachers will say, you know what? At least these people die with strong iman and they are shuhada. They die with strong, it's terrible what's going on, that the war is going on there. But you know what? They die praying. They die in sujood. They die fighting for their religion. They die with firm taqwa and firm tawakkul. They die with firm reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you met the Syrians, you will know this, right? They are people of strong iman. If you met the Palestinians, they are people of strong iman, right? And they die as shuhada. You know who's in the real bala right now? Not them. They're not in real bala. They are in ikram. You say they're being ennobled. You know who's in the real bala right now? Those who are in affluent countries, those who are in rich countries, those who are in countries whereby it's filled with entertainment. Or you know what's the real bala? Share it with me. Share it on I have a fiqh group with some of the asatiza. Alhamdulillah. Okay, I'll show you what's the bala shadid, okay? What's a true bala shadid. So I'm gonna give you all some link. You see this? So someone was sharing, so the murder was sharing with us today, this morning. This is bala shadid. This is bala shadid. You look at all these links, I'm put it on the chat, right? They are spending in Saudi $13 billion in 21 entertainment destinations. The very country that holds the Kaaba and Masjid Nabawi, spending how many billion? How many billion? 13 billion. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. That's a bala. They are in bala. They are in bala'un shadid. That is a bala'un shadid. And people who go for these entertainment spots, that's a bala. Where's your deen? Man arafa deen Allah. Rajulun arafa deen Allah. That's the hadith. Rajulun arafa deen Allah. You know this one hadith can be entire fiqh tahulat. There is jawami al-kalim. Rasulullah has jawami al-kalim. In one hadith covers everything you need to know, about your zaman. Subhanallah. That is his mu'jiza. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. And look at this. Right? So you see Saudi, right now Saudi is Yemen, right? People might think from a dunyawi point of view, from a dunya, they might think, oh, Yemen is in the bala because Yemen is having war on Yemen. They think that, oh, is the poorest Arab nation. Yes, it is. And Yemen is the poorest Arab nation in the dunya, not in the akhirah. In the akhirah, they're richest. The richest town in the world, I would say. But yani, they will say, oh, there's so much bala going on in Yemen. They're in war. They have, they lack, funding. They lack food. They're in hunger. Right? They're in this. They're in that. They're in this. They're in that. Subhanallah. When we listen to our teachers, they find the affluence now to be the bala. Right? The affluence is the richness now. That they consider now to be richness, and the whole world considers to be poor. They are considering themselves to be rich compared to the last time, long time ago, whereby they only would eat dates and water every single day. So they count now as rich, subhanAllah. We are not looking at them as poor, mashallah. The real bala, is where? In Saudi. That's where the real bala is. The real bala is where? In Riyadh. The real bala is where? Is in Dubai. Right, they're making all these kind of dolls out of, huge giant dolls. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Where's the bala? You get it? I hope you get it. For us to define bala, what is bala? And is it shadid? Right, shadid, meaning what? It affects something that will destroy a human being eternally. And that is what? That is deen. It affects someone's deen. If something merely, and I say merely, affects someone's dunya, it's not shadid. It's not shadid. Mahal kan? No matter what illness afflicts you, it's just dunya. It's just dunya. Even if you die from that illness, right? And you die with your sins forgiven, inshallah. You die with your levels raised, inshallah. Is that a bala? Is it a bala'un shadid? La, it's not. But it's just, something of the arari dunya. It's something of the afflictions of dunya, that's all. And it ends at the point of death. It ends with death. A severe bala is the one that continues forever. That is a severe bala. Subhanallah. May Allah give us understanding. Now, let me continue with this. So can you see, can we change our lens? That's what fiqh tahawwul is trying to do to us. And fiqh tahawwul changes our lens. When you see when you first saw the word, a great tribulation will afflict my community, what do you think? What do you understand by this word, a great tribulation? What do you understand? Do you think, oh, war? Is he talking about World War III? Is it war? Is it illness, like they say COVID, right? Is it COVID? I think the worst thing in COVID was people losing their iman. There were many people who were losing their iman, right, during the COVID. They lost their aqidah. That was the bala, not the COVID. The bala was people losing their iman, people stop coming to the masjids, people staying away from jama'ah, this is a bigger bala, which in Tarim they couldn't care less when they were in Tarim. Right now, right? So here, like bala shadid. So قال صلى الله عليه وسلم shadid, right? Shadid, right? بمعنى, it means that nobody can escape from this, and it could be you're in the heart of it. Okay, so I hope you understand this part. That if you can identify what the Prophet meant by great tribulation, what he meant by that word, you can identify: are you in the heart of this tribulation? Are you right there? And who are the people who can identify? Rajulun arafa din Allah. See that? Right there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He gave the solution. Who are the people who can see this? And they can see where our tribulation, where the tribulations? Imam Muhajir, our perfect example today. Right? He is Rajulun arafa din Allah. Like arafa din Allah. He is a man who has understood. He has understood the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? By his words, by his actions, and by his heart. And therefore he is min as-sawabiq, and he is سبقت له السوابق. Right? So عرف دين الله بلسانه ويده وقلبه. Imam Muhajir. You have someone in mind? That first group, Imam Muhajir and the likes of Imam Muhajir, they are like that. عرف دين الله. He saw himself in Iraq, the most affluent place in his time, the most forward, Islamic society in his zaman. They were the most forward. They were like the center, a bustling center of richness and wealth and governance and even scholarship, right there in Iraq. And what did he see? Bala. He saw Bala. Everyone's running to Iraq at that time. They were all running to Basra. They were all running there. They all want to get in on the dunya. Imam Muhajir see? Bala. He ran. He fled. He's the only one who did that. He ran away because he saw there's Bala there. This is Basira. This is Rajul Arafa din Allah. He knows the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So right now, if we can't see it, someone's like, oh, so excited. Oh, Saudi is going to build how many entertainment spots, all around Saudi. Oh, I want to go for Umrah and then I want to go for entertainment. Wala hawla wala quwwata. Can you just see how ridiculous that statement will be? Like subhanallah. Like their greed, and I will say sarahatan, their greed is to this extent. Like not enough what comes into their land by the Kaaba and by the Qubbah, by the Kaaba and by the Green Dome. Not enough. The amount of money that flows into Saudi because of Umrah and Hajj, right? Not enough. Not enough. They must use dunya to pull people in. And they're building all this ridiculous 13 billion. How are they going to answer for that on the day of judgment? How are they going to answer for that? And anyone who even it comes to your mind to go and see these places, I'm just going to say, wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Have you not understood a single thing in these lessons of Tahawulat? Okay, so as we go through Tahawulat, it's going to be very, very strong, very firm, very, I would say, very in your face, harsh lessons. Right? That you can't walk away from this, and you can't go into what you were before. If you were someone who loved entertainment, if you were someone who traveled to another country just to go to a theme park, if you were someone who used to, like do all this like nonsense, whatever it is, and spend money, hundreds of dollars, on this kind of stuff, tawbat from all this shar. This is all the bala'un shadid, all the bala'un shadid. So right here, right now, in the links I gave you, that is an example of bala. That right there is an example of bala'un shadid. They are in the bu'ad min Allah ta'ala wala yash'ar. They are in the distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they do not even realize that is bala. That is bala. To be far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you don't even realize. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. That is why, and Ya Rasulullah, man makhraj. Ya Rasulullah, what's the way out? Rajulun arafa din Allah. Every single one of it, Rajulun arafa din Allah. Rajulun arafa din Allah. Right? Someone who has studied, someone who knows the religion, someone who has gone into the religion in his studies, right? Either the strongest of them, his entire being is Islam, like Habib Umar, right? The entire person is Islam, or someone a bit weaker, struggling on their deen, getting there, but not as the first person, or someone the weakest, right? Knowing it, appreciating it, loving it, but any very weak, very, very weak, right, in applying Islam. Tamam. Okay, let me continue my notes. Then that we won't move from the hadith, right? Like this in this case, mashallah. But you see, this is what is called Jawami al-Kalim. This is what it's called. You can sit on a hadith, right? I mean, you can stay for hadith, right? And you can not only sit as stand, you can stand by a hadith, right? And literally spend your entire year on one hadith. You know, subhanAllah, story of Imam Shafi'i, the entire night, one hadith. Ya Abu Umair, ma fa'al al-Nughayr, the hadith. Whole night, right? The hadith was running this, one whole night until they pulled out, you know, how many mas'ala, how many issue that one hadith, about 70, he pulled out 70 different masail, different issues from one hadith. Ya Abu Umair, ma fa'ala al-Nughayr. You know, it's a hadith about a young boy who lost his bed. Right? And Imam Shafi brought so much from there. That is why you say the words of Rasulullah is part of his mu'jiza. So we can we can stand by this hadith, you know, in honor of this hadith and not move from here until like I don't know, at the end of the year, one whole year, one hadith. But I won't do that. I will continue, inshallah. But really, just to tell you, right? The words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bahr, bahr. It is an ocean that has no end. It's an ocean that has no end. You can just sit there and just get all of his wisdom and solution in your zaman if you allow for your heart to be graced by the light of the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you know what? This is from the barakah of the slawats that we do before fiqh tahawulat. And Habib al-Adani, he penned down these slawats not for no reason. He penned down these slawats so that our hearts open up to the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even get the maqta that they played for us, the video they played for us for our diploma, whereby Habib Abu Bakr Ani says, Bushra, good news to those who are studying fiqh tahawulat, your sheikh is Rasulullah. Your sheikh is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because it's us, Habib Abu Bakr, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So short. The sunnah is so short. Subhanallah. MashaAllah. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Your sheikh is Rasulullah. He's telling you directly what's going on in your zaman. He's telling you directly what to do. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam. Allah. Saya tadi fiqh tahawalat, it will make you fall deeper and deeper and deeper in love with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because you see the goodness from him, how much he really cared for us. You know, mashallah. Right. It's a good question here. The side someone asked. Right. So it's okay to not want to travel just for all that entertainment. In fact, you know what? You should not be traveling for entertainment. Right. You know, if you're gonna travel, right, see the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is in line with what the Quran says. Tamam? Right. So mashallah. People who travel for dunya, you're gonna be questioned for that on the day of judgment. Definitely. Those who travel for dunya, meaning that you travel, you know, to go to some theme park, you travel to go to some entertainment, you travel to go to some Allahu Alam, whatever you're doing, right? But if you travel and you travel for yeah, see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, see the mountains, right? That's in the Quran. Travel to the earth and wonder at Allah's creation. هذا من العبادة. Right, that is worship. تدبر, تفكر, هذا من أعظم العبادة. Right, to ponder, to think about things, that's of the greatest of ibadah. Tamam, that's from the Quran. That's from the Quran. I'm talking about dunya, not alam. Be very clear. Alam hu alam, dunya hu dunya. Tamam. Dunya is what the definition of dunya, ta'rif of dunya, whatever distracts a person from Allah. That is a definition of dunya. Whatever distracts a person from Allah. That is why even something that seems like an ibadah could be dunya. Right? Like someone seeking knowledge for praise. That could be dunya. And ma akhira wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Tamam. Alam yu'allimuna 'anil 'alim. Right? There is a statement. The alam, the natural environment from the word alam, teaches us about the all-knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the alam. And that's why the alam alama. The alam alama. على عظمة الخالق. The alam is a sign of the greatness of the creator. That is all under ibadah, ibadah, ibadah. It's all ibadah. And that was Zamam Haidana, she shared that statement with us about the alam. So never confuse dunya and alam. Dunya is dunya daniya. Dani is low. The dunya is so low. It is called the material world. Is material world, dunya. Alam is the beautiful creation of the creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. Difference there, big difference. Tamam. Continue. Bismillah. Tamam. Right. So bala'un shadid huwa laysa bala adi. Right. So it's not a normal bala in kama amrad wal faqr wal alam wal harb. It's all adi. It's all normal bala. Right. شديد هذا يعني في العلم والعقائد والشريعة. Right. So the bala is in the religion right there. Tamam. Right. So it's not marad. It's not illness. It's not harb. It's not war, but it's aqidah. It's ilm. Right. It's sharia. It's tazkiyah. It's all in these things. So Rasul said, Rasulullah, I'm still in my notes, sorry. Right. I'm still sorry, I'm taking a long time to get through my notes. Right. Bala'un shadid. And it so ذكر تقصيص, right, من السلاطين, right. So now in the hadith, right, this great tribulation coming from who? Sultan. Sultan man. What sultan? Who is the sultan? What sultan? Right? So min sultanihim. The hadith goes min sultanihim. Where is this coming from? Right? So he said the state. The state, basically. Okay, so there is an understanding in the hadith that means the state, meaning those in control of the government, they will be imposing things on the people and forcing them into it. All right. And this will be mentalities. All right. Which is why now the statement is that in the past, it used to be colonization of our bodies, but now it's colonization of our minds. And that's true. There's a colonization of the minds of us, especially those in Asia. Right. So you see how many people around us, there's still this, admiration of the West. Even here in the Arab lands, Habib Omar, he will keep bringing out Westerners to speak against the West, because the Arabs admire and they exalt the West. And that's a colonization of the mind. So the colonists have left our land physically, our lands, the Asians, the Indians, the Arabs, right? All over the world, the Africans, they have left our lands, yes, but they've colonized our hearts and our minds, to make us admire them. Right, so this is also part of you see the sultan, the zaman. Zaman can mean also the state of it, right? So this is the irony of it. In Singapore, they're so worried about the Arabization of the Muslims. I don't know if you all have heard of this in Singapore. They keep saying, "Oh, the Arabization of the Muslims, the Arabization of the Muslims." No, what's happening to the Muslims in Singapore, for a group of Muslims in Singapore, right? And for other parts of the world, yes, is the education of the Muslims, right? The education of the Muslims. And because we are more educated, thanks to our government, alhamdulillah, they educated us, mashallah, we became more educated in our religion. And then we became more, knowing as to what is wajib on us. Because in our country, they will say, it used to be that less Muslims wore the hijab. Now, everywhere you go in Singapore, you find hijabis. Right? It used to be that the Muslims would even be in gatherings where alcohol is served in the past in Singapore. But now, the Muslims are staying away from alcohol. And they're wondering what's going on. And why are the Muslims coming or the Muslims now, they're wearing like jubba, they're wearing abaya. Are they becoming Arabs? No, they're becoming Muslims. They're becoming more Muslim. This was happening in Singapore, becoming more Muslims, inshallah, alhamdulillah. Right. But the irony is that this what is really happening all over the world is that the entire world is turning Western. The entire world is turning Western, right? Just give a very clear example, a very clear example. Look at marriages, look at weddings. right? Just to show, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, right? But I'm saying look at the mindset. Look at the mindset. How many of us, we have not a drop of Western blood, but in our weddings, a wedding dress that's Western, a suit that the groom wears that's Western. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying look at the influence. Okay? I'm saying look at the influence. Right? For my wedding, Alhamdulillah, I'm Indian. My husband's Indian. We wore Indian, basically. We wore Indian clothing. And we wore jubba because we're Muslims, right? So we wore the jubba and the sarban. As I wore sarban, he wore jubba, I wore jubba. Because we're Muslims. We're Muslims, right? This is my identity. I am Indian and I am Muslim. That's my identity. I did not see a need for me at all to wear a Western wedding dress. Why? I'm not Western, nor is my husband. Right? Why in the world must I do that? And I remember at my wedding, I had one grand auntie, she's passed me, all have mercy on her soul. But at my wedding, she was like, aren't you gonna wear a wedding gown? And I was like, for what? And she's like, it's not a wedding until you wear a wedding gown. And she's Asian, and she's Asian Malay, and he makcik, and mashallah, may Allah bless her soul. Right. But I was thinking, but she grew up in the colonization of the British over Singapore. So in her mind, a wedding, you must wear the wedding dress of the West. Then there's a wedding. You see how the mind has changed? We're not Western. I'm Indian. Some of you are Chinese and some of you are Malay. Be Malay, be Indian, do your culture. I do your culture. And then be Muslim. You're Muslim too. Subhanallah. So I used to wonder, like every wedding that you go to, they will have Western dress. Will have it. Why? And majority of us have not a drop of Western blood. Subhanallah. If you do have a Western blood, then it's up to you. But I can see what has gone, right? What has happened in our in the colonization of our minds, right? To this admiration of the Western world. That is min sultanihim. So we're at the tafsir, we're at the explanation of the word min sultanihim, right? From their sultan. We're at that word. From there's not everybody's like, those who have not gotten married are wondering, why am I gonna wear now? You know what? As much as I say I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm saying it's I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying it's wrong, right? But yeah, they wore all kinds of outfits now, right? But what I understood from the people of the past, they will wear outfits whereby they have a heritage too, right? Like if they have no heritage to the Malays, they won't wear a Malay outfit. They'll wear the Indian outfit. If there's a heritage somewhere, the Western dress has no link to us at all, except that it was colonized by the West. You get it, right? So if you look at all the weddings, right, they will wear heritage dresses. Most of them. Maybe now there's a fashion going on now. Allahu alam, I don't know, but most of them they'll wear something from their heritage. So if you have a Jawa heritage, you wear a Javanese, dress. You have an Indian heritage, you wear an Indian dress, right? Correct. As far as I have observed from a lot of weddings, they'll wear what's in the heritage. If you have Chinese heritage, they'll take something from the Chinese, just for fun, I guess. Fun. Western is nowhere in the heritage. Right. So I think that's what I've seen in weddings. They go by the heritage, by the heritage. So they will change, yes, but they will go by the heritage of the bride and the groom. What is the heritage of the bride and the groom? They will wear those. Correct. Like for me, I had no need to wear a Javanese or a Jawa dress because there is no heritage in me, nor my husband. That we have, Jawa in us. No, we're both Indian. Subhanallah. I know that my brother, right, there was his wife is Chinese, right? So they had a Chinese, and it says they go with heritage. This was basically what I'm saying is that we have no heritage to the West. So, in every wedding, like it's as if it's wajib for a person to wear something Western, right? When there is not in our heritage. You get it? There is, you get it, right? So Allah Alam, I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying that it is an influence. there is an influence, right? There is an influence. Even our language, our English, it's all from our government, right? How are we fluent in English in Singapore? The Sultan of Singapore, right? They made us fluent. They put English into our culture, and we became English speaking. And by us being English speaking, we became Western in our culture, somewhat mixture of Asian and Western. By what? The English language. It's true. It's true. So we're exposed. It's why here in Tarim, like when some of the Arabs say want to learn English, and I was like, stick to your Arabic. Just stick to your Arabic, because the English opens up doors of a lot of evil, a lot. We have an entire access to Hollywood and to all kinds of junk online. We know the English language. We have access to all of this junk online. I see my teachers, they do not know English. They have no access to any of these things, nor their children, because they don't know the English language. And they say, like, oh, but English is the language of da'wah. Yes, leave it to those who know English to do the da'wah in English, right? But protect your children. I was saying to the Tarimis, and keep to your Arabic, keep the Arabic. Right? Just English, Arabic is a key to the books of the righteous of the past. English is a key to a lot of evil online. Lots of evil online. But this is what we mean by the word sultanihim. Okay? What we're doing, I hope you're not feeling attacked, right? I'm in the same culture as all of you, okay? We're all in the same culture. We all grew up in the same culture, all of us. We grew up in the same culture, right? But it's just a basira. Do you get it? It's a basira. It's us to take a step back and look what's happening, right? We've been swept into this. So yes, I'm speaking about the English language, yes. And that is my first tongue. My first language is English, then Arabic. Yeah. And I know, just by me knowing English, I know about Hollywood. I know about the sitcoms. I know about the comedies. I know about the movies. Just by me knowing English, I know all this stuff, right? Just by knowing English. And if you don't know English, you won't know a lot of this stuff. Subhanallah, right? Not discouraging the language, Annie, but just saying, open up your eyes. Okay, open up your eyes, right? To what's going on around us. So when it says sultanihim, those in authority, right? They are putting in regulations. They are putting in you say, what do you call it in Singapore? What's the word in Singapore? They always use, not regulations, but Allah, I forgot the English word for it. Like programs, not programs. What do you call this? I forgot the word. Okay, never mind. It's okay. they like basically they have like plannings, programs, right, whereby campaigns, policies, yes, policies, correct, policies. That's the word, policies, right? Policies. Right, they put in policies, right, and this create a society. But it creates society. It does this to us, right? This creates society. So subhanallah, continue. So that is why it said, min sultanihim. It does, there is one understanding of the hadith, right, whereby the word sultan means sultan, yani those in authority, right? So those in authority, they put on their policies, right, on the people, with regards to education, with regards to medication, with regards to lifestyle, with regards to even ideologies, mentalities, with regards to entertainment, right? There's an imposing of policies. Right now, we're seeing it with the LGBT, right? It is from the government down, right? It's an imposing of policies. Of course, it was from the LGBT community up, and they pressured the government into it. Then from government down, right? And then now it comes widespread, right, over everyone. It comes widespread over everyone. Yes, English is a language of da'wah. Leave it to the people who speak English. You get what I'm saying? Like, English is a language of da'wah. Yes, leave it to those who already know English. I was addressing those in Tarim right now who want to learn English to do da'wah. And I'm like, you know what? You keep your Arabic and be protected. Let us do our da'wah to our people, because we know English already, right? We already know English. Is that Rauha? Now, wait, now is before Maghrib. Rauha, is it Rauha now? Betul? Bismillah. Okay, the Saturday will stop lah. Where's my radio? Is that Rauha? From Husaisa, is it? Mashallah. Okay, let me stop there for today, inshallah. Since there is Rawha from Husaisa. Naam. In Facebook kita mau okay, besok dah today insyaallah wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam, but still on the hadith so alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, al-fatiha wa bismillah wal amalan khas wa salim bil huda wa sul bikum asasam wa arwah ma'ani min mashayikhina wa zawil alaina wa ila hadrat nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-fatiha. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. I just hope everyone open up your mind and think about what was said today. Inshallah, just think about it. Right? What was said today, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. And the Malays, you have to go to your Malay Zoom. Okay. I think probably you'll be doing your Rawha there. Okay. English can stay here, I guess. And open up. Somebody can open up Rawha for English. Bismillah.
Dan di Telegram. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya minta maaf